All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to call the meeting to order in a second, but I thought real quick we just do introductions so folks know who's talking and what their role is. I'm Jason Critchlow. I'm the Portage Township trustee. This is Steve Downey. He's the Warren Township trustee. These are two board members. This is Ryan Hill and Cheryl Ash from Portage Township. They're the board members of Portage Township. Our third is not here. And then down here we have two members from Warren Township, and their third is not here either. This is Pete Agostino. He is the legal advisor, and down there is Nikki Franklin, and she is the financial advisor. Joining us here is Mohammed, who is the third member of Warren Township's board. Portage Township's board. Don't put that in the minutes. All right. So like we did last time, we are going to ask each township to call their own meeting to order, and then we can get going.
I want to call Portage Township meeting to order for March 5th.
I agree.
Roll call. Hold on.
Okay, we're in order. I'm going to hand it over here to Pete Agostino to kick us off and give us some overview and background of the proposed St. Joe County Fire Territory. Last housekeeping thing, if you haven't signed in, you can sign in up here, and there are copies of the presentation if you have a hard time. Pete.
Thank you. So I know a few people out here in the audience, but how many people were here last time, the first time we went over this? Would have been last week. Raise your hand if you were here last time. Okay, so it seems like we got a good chunk of new people here, so I didn't want to make sure I was repeating what was said last time, but want to explain or give an overview what's going on here, what's being proposed, what the process is, and what the steps are, okay? So first of all, tonight, there's not going to be any vote, okay? That's going to come later on, but tonight is for the purpose for you to receive information about the fire territory, and in particular, to receive financial data about the fire territory. What does that mean? How does it impact you? You know, what's it going to do to your property taxes? What's it going to do to the surrounding units in the county? That information is going to be given to you, and then you have an opportunity to be heard. So what is a fire territory? Back in '94, the state legislature said that units of government that were next to each other could form a territory. Now, why did they want to do that? There's been a problem in Indiana, particularly due to a lot of factors, including population growth, cost of expenses, and volunteers dropping out of service, that it becomes more and more expensive for government units. And in the case of townships, the township trustees are required by state law to provide fire protection service. Okay. It gets more and more expensive to provide that service. And if you don't do a fire territory, what you can collect in property taxes from year to year, and that's the levy, is limited on how much you can increase that. So sometimes if you have to add a firefighter, the cost of that firefighter alone is more than what you can collect in increased taxes from your regular tax collections. So back in '94, this idea was put on the books, statutes to create a territory. So the two units of government come together, and they have to have, one of them has to be what's called the provider unit. That's the unit that takes care of the budget, collects the money, administers the territory. And both units are called participating units because they're participating in the territory. They have to have an agreement that controls how they're going to govern themselves. And we've got a proposed agreement here, and there's a fire committee on that, an agreement that oversees the operation of the fire territory. How are your services being provided, and how's the budget going to be formulated? And it's set up to get input from both units, including the public, and then ultimately the provider unit, which is proposed to be Portage Township, goes about submitting the budget and collecting the dollars when they come in. So that's just a general overview. There's also an opportunity to, when you first create the territory, is to, I'll say, right size your property tax collection to match what your true budget is for providing the service. So typically, you're only allowed to increase your budget by the growth rate quotient in Indiana, and that's probably in the last few years been around 4%, 3.5%. Okay, well, sometimes your cost increases for the protection could be 10, 12, 20%. So in that first year of your fire protection unit, you can jump your levy to meet what your budget is. Then going forward, it's subject to the same limitations. But there is an opportunity to correct so that you're being able to pay for the service that's needed for the fire protection. There's also an opportunity to collect a small amount, 0.033 per 100. That's the equipment replacement fund to provide for equipment for the territory, fire trucks, a lot of other equipment it's supplied, including storage for the equipment. So that shows up on your tax bill. So how does this process work? It has to happen. Both units of government have to adopt identical resolutions. That has to happen between January and March 30, by March 31. Okay. There's a lots of public hearing requirements in the law to give you an opportunity to come find out about the territory and ask questions and have your position heard. Okay, so there's 3 hearings that are required. Because of some noticing requirements, and just to be extra careful here, you're going to end up having a 4th hearing before the adoption date, which is March 28th.
Correct.
Okay. There'll be a 4th hearing on that date. You're only required to do 3. You're going to have 4 here. This is the 2nd hearing. Okay. Again, no vote's going to be taken tonight. It's more for you to learn more about this, ask questions, get information. There'll be a 3rd hearing. There'll also be a separate hearing in connection with this equipment replacement fund before it gets adopted, if it gets adopted. Okay. Once all the hearings are done on March 28th, there's going to be an adoption hearing. And at that hearing, both township boards, it's not the trustees, it's the township boards, have to approve basically identical resolutions creating this territory. So that's kind of general overview. I've done quite a few of these territories over the years, for more than 20 plus years. The big questions that do get asked at these territories are, what's the impact on me? What's going to happen to my property tax bill? And it's no mystery. I think for some people, the taxes will go up. For some people, they won't go up. But the good news is we've got somebody very qualified here who's going to give you the details. And it's an extensive process, let me tell you, to dig down, find out how that's going to impact you. The building block for that is to understand what is the cost of providing the fire protection. Okay, what do the facilities cost? What does it cost to man the stations? How many people do you need? What's the going rates? I can tell you, like right now, and I work with lots of different fire departments, the firefighters are in high demand. Okay. They get poached. Bigger departments poach from smaller departments. They poach from smaller departments yet. There's a high demand. So the cost of being able to pay for services, particularly when you don't have the group of volunteers that we used to have, we just don't have. I mean, society's changed. People have jobs that don't allow them the flexibility to come and provide the volunteer service. So if you want someone to show up at your house when you call 911, and probably 70% of the calls are medical calls. Okay. when you want someone to show up, you want them to leave a station equipped and ready to go. And there is a cost to that. So I think that information is going to be, again, provided to you, like what's the budget? And then how does the budget translate into effect on you on property taxes? So I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Pete. Just going to point out for folks that the list of public meetings are up there. So if you want to come to another one, we have them there and you have them in your handouts. I have revised the presentation that we're doing based on feedback from the last one. And I will point out what's new in there for the board. The boards have seen this already. And then I added a frequently asked questions slide, which I will then build upon. So, all right, I'm going to move through this. And then again, the public will have opportunity to ask whatever questions they want. We're done here. But for now, I'm going to go through the presentation in its entirety, as will Nikki, to the board. Pause only for questions from the board, and then we'll move to the public. So starting with the current status and future planning, one thing that we take note of is the increased call volume that both Warren Fire Stations 18 and 19 has seen, as well as Station 41, which is the fire station you're in right now. 18 and 19 has seen an increase of 26% in their call volume in these last 3 years, increase of 15% here for Station 41. Those numbers do not include mutual aid. If you do not know what mutual aid is, that would be a call where the call actually goes out to a different fire department, or a different fire station, and this fire station responds. There could be a lot of reasons why they do that. For some reason, that station's busy, they're unavailable, and another fire station responds, even though it's not technically their responsibility. That's called mutual aid. It happens a lot. But these numbers do not include that because we thought this would just be a nice baseline to see how the volume has increased over the last 3 years, and we feel like it's going to continue to increase. I was chatting with somebody earlier today about the local area here, the economic development that a lot of you are probably seeing and hearing about here in this area. The new Carlisle Enterprise Center is a big one. We're all aware of the great amount of investment that's encouraged, that is going on in that area out there, as well as increasing housing development, particularly in Warren Township, which is really leading to a population increase that we expect to continue. So running the numbers in the last 10 years, the area you're in right now, Portage Township and Warren Township, the population has increased by 9% in the last 10 years. That's significant because the population increase for St. Joe County on whole was 2%. So you are sitting in one of the fastest growing areas of St. Joe County by the numbers. That all has an effect on fire protection that needs, the fire service that needs to be provided. So another thing we take note of is, as Pete has kind of touched on, is the professionalization of modern fire departments. That has kind of come along with some population cultural expectation changes. There was a time when people moved into certain areas and they understood that, a fire truck might be 20 minutes away, help might be 20 minutes away, 25 minutes away, that somebody had to drive from their house to the fire station and back out. The modern population's expectation has surpassed that. They're expecting fast response times. They're expecting highly qualified firefighter personnel showing up to their emergencies. Equipment and facilities changed. The facility you're sitting in right now was built to be a volunteer fire department. That means it did not have a kitchen. It did not have shower facilities. It did not have bunk rooms. Over time, those things have been added and retrofitted into stations as best as they can. But equipment is expensive. Pumper truck, tanker trucks cost $1 million each. It's extraordinarily expensive, the equipment and facilities that modern fire departments now use. Firefighter retention, as Pete mentioned, and qualifications are definitely becoming an issue that is directly related to the pay and benefits that are provided. Firefighter safety is an issue. There is a need to be able to ensure that the actual firefighters are as safe as they possibly can as they're going out and doing this dangerous work. That correlates with the type of equipment that they're getting, the type of benefits that they're receiving, the type of quality of care that they're receiving. EMT qualifications are a big thing. Firefighters, all are just about expected to be qualified as an EMT nowadays. That was definitely not a thing, decades ago. But now, as we said, 70% of these calls are medical calls. So EMT qualifications are a must now for firefighters. That is new in modern times. generally speaking, fast, high quality emergency response is expected. And that means fast response times. And what we're looking to do is have great response times with this fire territory with better on-scene service and support in an emergency. And that's really what this territory is all about, providing a high quality response and service to the residents of the territory. That's what brings us here today and to this discussion. And so those are our goals. Our goal obviously is to always have the best possible return for each taxpayer dollar that we must spend to provide that fast, high quality service. Firefighter training goes along with that, firefighter safety. Of course, we want to be efficient with tax dollars. Again, as I noted, this is an area of growing demand. Insurance rates are related to the quality of service that you can provide in that area. Specifically, commercial insurance typically is that's a significant factor for something called an ISO rating is assigned to a certain area based on the quality and level of fire service that can be protected. That has an effect on the insurance rates and premiums, especially for commercial businesses.
I'm gonna go ahead and share that again.
Oh, sorry, what's going on? Am I not sharing?
You were sharing that people that were online couldn't see the actual, they can see us, they can't see the, there you go.
Am I sharing?
No.
Sharing technology. How about now?
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll get it.
up there.
He'll move it over.
I will move it up.
There it is.
Good team.
This is the part I want everybody to see. All right, so anyway, lower insurance rates we feel are directly related to the quality of service that you can provide. Businesses do look at that when they're looking to determine where in an area they are going to invest their money and build businesses. So we feel that providing a higher quality fire service is not only a benefit to residents directly from a safety and emergency response standpoint, but also from an economic standpoint as in terms of attracting local business development. Any questions from the board on those items? Cheryl, I know first time seeing it.
Makes sense to me.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the operational plan of what this will look like. As you all know, the territory name would be the St. Joe County Fire Territory. We feel that would represent both what we're looking to do today and what we'd like to see happen here in the future. The current participating units would be Warren and Portage Township, but the goal would be future growth. We would like to try to attract other entities, other close local entities to also join this territory. And so part of the planning for this would be to set up the type of quality of fire service that would be attracted to other entities wanting to join. As mentioned, 3 fire stations would be included in this, 41 where you are now, and then Warren 18 and 19. The thought is that each unit would maintain its identity on the assets being vehicles and buildings, as part of an overall unit, and as part of a unit of an overall territory. And what that would look like is the logo would say St. Joseph County Fire Territory on it, maybe Portage Township unit. Warren Township unit, patches would say that. We think it'd be nice for residents to see if they had to call for emergency response, they would see it's their local unit that's showing up. As we talked about, this would be governed by a territory board. The board is responsible for tax levies, adopting and managing the budget, hiring, policy, those type of things would all be managed by the territory board. Any questions about that?
Actually,
Oh, go ahead.
if in the future, another territory, another township decide to join the fire territory, what happens with that levy? Does that reset for them to then also share their part of?
It's a great question.
everything together?
No matter what, any change you make to a fire territory, you must first dissolve the existing fire territory. So in your scenario, and everything has to be redone, unfortunately. And that's why, as you probably know, Steve and I, and we're asking Center and Union Township to consider being here and joining this territory all at once, because if they were to decide to join in the future, we have to dissolve this territory and start a new one, legally speaking. The entity name could stay the same. Generally speaking, things could stay the same, but the process. Go ahead.
Well, I think you can do an add-on. So the reason that in this case, when Portage and Center dissolution is because you're not adding to that territory, okay, or that territory is not expanding. So that's why there was a dissolution there and a new territory here. But if next year, if somebody is interested in joining this, you can amend this to add
Oh,
someone.
that's nice.
And then there would be a resetting of what the levy would be in that case, just like we would be now.
The levy is based on the total assessed value in all participating units. So if you're adding a participating unit, that would change the assessed value of the whole unit. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Here's the staffing that we would propose. We would actually like all three fire stations to be staffed by 5-man battalions, 5-person battalions. Currently Warren 18 and 19 are the only 2 fire stations that are equipped for that right now as far as space and bunk rooms. So both 18 and 19, we propose to have 5 firefighters per shift. Here at Station 41, there'd be 3 plus 1 battalion chief. Our future goal would be to make the adjustments necessary to Station 41 to have 5-person shifts. Leadership and administration would be a fire chief, assistant chief, and admin of 5 individuals as far as administration and leadership goes, for a total staffing of 47 individuals hired and working for the fire department, fire territory. The proposed salaries for this fire territory. This is an amended slide from last time. So if you're someone who had the previous slides, the salaries are the same. We feel like these salaries, based on research, based on what you see in other firefighter departments, this would put people on. This is comparative to what is being paid in other fire departments. So firefighter base pay would be $75,000. And what I've added to the slide here is that these salaries would then rank number 4 out of 133 for all fire departments. 44, I'm sorry, 44 out of 133. But more importantly, for fire departments, fire territories of this similar size, you'd be ranked 9th out of 55. So meaning there's still 8 other territories that are actually paying more than this. And that is for the Firefighters Union of Indiana numbers. I also added this slide as well, so you can compare what other fire departments here locally are paying. Currently, Southwest base firefighter pay is $53,000. Warren is $58,000. Here we are proposing $75,000. You can see Clay, Mishawaka, South Bend, local departments, all within that ballpark or more.
That page is a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can get you a copy if you need one. I can leave it up there for you. Any questions from the board on that? Check and see if it's in there. Not in there. Sorry about that.
I did just want to point something out on that prior slide.
Sure.
Because we passed the amended salaries last year and I was looking those over. Currently the Chief Eiler, our fire chief, actually makes less than your average firefighter in the area. Our firefighters are making, almost $20,000 less. It's a lot. 15,000, so.
It's a big difference.
Which means some of them will be looking at the other entities. I would.
And then anything that's been put into training or support, that just ends up being benefiting other territories. So.
Any other board questions or comments there? I agree. Thank you, Ryan. And that retention is certainly one of the issues we're looking to address here. So just talking a minute about what the provider unit is, that's proposed to be Portage Township. Pete sort of touched on this. The provider unit is responsible for the daily management oversight of any administrative staff, financial management, doing payroll, accounts payable, billing, taking in receipts for the fire department, the fire territory, provide all human resource services, administrative support, legal support, all that kind of stuff to the firefighter personnel, coordinate maintenance. I gotta fix this. Insurance and insurance. Insurance meaning liability insurance for the assets, and then health insurance and other benefits for the firefighters. And then obviously any other sort of administrative support that a firefighter might need from their employer would be provided by the staff of Portage Township. We have a staff, we have an office. It just seems to make the most sense that that would be managed by Portage Township.
I have a quick.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Okay, and given that we're going to be adding this to the people already working,
If approved, yep.
and they're already working really hard now, are they gonna be able to do all that without another person?
No, that was the previous slide. Administrative support staff are part of the budget proposed here.
There'd be one other person coming on board.
Probably at least one, yes, that would come on to do without those administrative staff. They would just be housed at Portage Township, or if they're at the fire territory, they'd be managed by myself, Lana, they would be, how this looks is this all exists within the Portage Township fund. There'd be a separate fund under Portage Township. There is no fire territory entity that you can look up. It would be a separate fund, separate from all of our other funds, that those things would come out of. So the board oversight would increase because you would be seeing this on a monthly basis. That's part of being provider unit. The money flows through Portage Township. Great question, and I appreciate it because we are busy. If there's no questions about the operational plan from the boards, I'm going to turn it over to Nikki, and I'm going to walk through the slides here with her.
Stand over here so everybody can see me if that's all right. Nikki Franklin, I was asked to do the financial analysis of this. I'm a part owner of Peter Franklin, based out of Southern Indianapolis. I've worked up here, Clay Township's a client. We have clients all over the state of Indiana. Our expertise is within the state, not outside the state. So we have fire territories. This is the second one I'm doing this year. I think I have 2 or 3 more lined up for next year. So this is what is happening. Unfortunately, fortunately, however you may take it, this is how mainly townships are having to fund fire protection these days. This township just can't survive with what they were given by the state back in the 90s, whenever the original max levy was set. It's just not keeping up with the times. So you kind of went through staffing. I'm going to talk about the budget, how it's funded, that tax rate, what that means to the taxpayer, and what it means to the local units as well. So the first part is that budget for year 2025 is going to be approximately about $5.4 million. That's going to increase between 26 and 27. And that's just the standard inflationary budget increase. That creates a funding source of approximately 5.5 million for 2025, 6 million for 26, and 27 is a little 6.3 million. That funding source is from property taxes, your auto excise and commercial vehicle that you get based off of your property tax levy, and some income tax contributed by the participating units. The next fund is what we've talked on before, is your equipment replacement fund. This is a capital fund. It can only be used for capital needs, hoses, SCBA, tires, roofs, whatever it may be. It's only be used for capital nature. It is a rate restricted fund, so the most that you can get is a 0.0333 rate applied to the assessed value. That produces about 200,000, between 200 and 220,000 a year. And that, again, the fire department will use for capital needs that are ever increasing. As you know, fire apparatus, fire hoses, everything, $500,000. I'm not sure if it even gets you an ambulance anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe. So, things are expensive. The fire department obviously needs a way to have an annual fund increases. So what does that mean? It means we need a levy of between the two funds, the operating and a equipment replacement together, it'd be about 5.4 million. Creates a rate in 2025 of 90 cents, a little over 90 cents. And this is a uniform rate, so everybody within the fire territory will receive the same rate. By statute, I'm required to show based on current NAV, what that looks like between the two participating units. So Warren Township is approximately 76.8% of the net assessed value of the proposed fire territory. So of that 5.4 million, 4.8 is Warren Township. 1.2 is Portage Township. That's required by statute of, so part of what we have to present on all 4 meetings. So if you come to the next one, you'll see it again. All right, so this is good by everybody here. What does that do to your property taxes? You guys probably know the property tax cap rates or tax caps of your 1%, 2%, 3% properties. Currently, based on 2024 assessed value and rates for Warren Township. So if you live in Warren Township for 2024, if your house is above $132,300, you are capped out. You cannot pay any more taxes unless the school does a referendum, but we can't control that, right? So you are capped out. You can't pay any more property taxes. If you are under that amount, your property taxes can go up. If your home value is $50,000, you'll pay approximately $69 more a year. If it's $75,000, you'll pay approximately $103 more a year, and $100,000 will pay about $184 more a year. If you have 2% property, so agricultural, rental, apartment, you guys are capped out, your property taxes are not going up. 3% such, your commercial, your industrial, what have you. If you have $100,000 commercial property, your taxes will go up $464 a year. $250,000 property will go up $1,160 a year. $500,000 property, your taxes will go up $2,320 a year, and $1 million commercial property, your taxes will go up $4,620. And those are Warren Township, because we have to. If you live in Portage Township in 2024, based on your property tax rates, if your house is above $130,300, you're capped out. Again, your property taxes cannot go up based on the 1%. If your house is $50,000, you will pay $41.85 more a year. $75,000 house will pay approximately $63 more a year, and $100,000 house will pay approximately $109 more a year. Again, 2%, you're capped out. Your taxes will not increase. 3%, which again is your commercial, industrial. And if your property value is at $100,000, you will pay $338 more a year. $250,000 will pay $845 more. $500,000.
Get that. Excuse me, sir, I'm hard of hearing, and when you're talking, I can't hear what you.
$500,000, your increase will be $1,690 more a year, and $1 million will be $3,380. I messed that up last time too.
Yes. Questions from the boards on that?
Right, by statute, I'm required to show the income or the impact to local units. That includes income tax, circuit breaker, and excise tax. So I'll start with income tax. How income tax works is it's based off of previous year. So by forming the territory, these two participating units will see an income tax increase, but not until 2026. Because 2025's income tax is based off of how they are currently. 2026 will be based on how they are in 2025. So nobody, based on this, will see a difference in their income tax. Like you guys, your income tax rates aren't changing. It's the pie between all the different units. Right. So in 2025, they'll be the same. 2026, these two participating units will see an increase income tax, and the others will see a decrease.
Oh, sorry.
So what does this look like? Warren Township can see a potential increase of 300 and say 27,000. Portage will see an increase of about 47,000. Everybody else before something will see a decrease based on what their levy is compared to this new levy.
Typically townships would then send that check to the fire territory. I've seen that they've done that.
And lately, the DLGF has been a little stickler about lowering levies based on that property or that income tax, the second year income tax increase. So if you guys have we have a plan that says we're taking that and funding this property tax, we actually didn't ask for as much, right? As we could have with that income because of the adjusted income tax. It looks more and it helps fund the fire territory. The next is circuit breaker. So by raising your tax rate, you are going to be creating a bigger circuit breaker pie that everybody's going to share. As of today, St. Joe County circuit breaker actual has not been released, so 2024 is estimated based on tax rate. So 25, 26, and 27 is based off of what we project based on projections of assessed value, because we don't know what 25 assessed value or 26 assessed value is going to be at this point. So these are projections. So everybody's circuit breaker will go up. Obviously, Warren Fire circuit breaker goes away as long as Portage Fire, because those funds cease to exist and get funneled into the fire territory circuit breaker amount. So yes, everybody will see a circuit breaker increase. I noted last time that for 2023, the county had a circuit breaker loss of approximately 12,484,000. So I just want to put that in perspective because those numbers can look big, but when you're talking that they already have over $12 million of circuit breakers. The schools was 12,800,000. The libraries was 3.9 million, and the airport was 804 million for 2023. All right, the last impact is excise tax. So excise tax is based again off of your property tax levy. So as fire territories levy increases, the surrounding units distribution of that pie gets smaller. Theirs gets bigger. All the other units get smaller. And then this one, you'll see that only Portage Township is listed as an increase. And that's because they are the provider unit, so all property taxes funnel through them. The warden will actually not see any of the increase in excise tax. It'll all be to the fire territory. So again, everybody loses a little bit, the fire territory gains out of the pie. Question?
Board questions on Nikki's presentation? We're gonna do the public hearing in a minute, sir. I'll call on you first.
Okay.
Well, no, just hang on a sec. I got just two more slides, real quick. I added these because these were some frequently asked questions we either got by email or at the last board meeting or at the last public hearing. So one of them was, what happens if this doesn't pass? If this doesn't pass, Warren Township would continue to provide fire service for Warren Township. Portage Township would have to contract likely with Southwest or Warren to provide fire service for Portage Township. Firefighter benefits have been asked. None of those decisions have been made, but the goal would be to match current benefits for the firefighter personnel, and those are listed there. And then the 77 pension fund is what will be used. Firefighters are familiar with this. That is what Warren Township uses. It is not what Southwest uses, but it's considered an improved and better plan. We got some questions about EMS and ambulance service. Does this proposal include this? Why not? So I did some math on that. Our original proposal that would have included Center, Union, and Lakeville did include EMS service, that this territory would provide its own EMS. Right now, it doesn't. But with Center Township declining to participate, Union and Lakeville, then it wasn't possible because they don't share a border with Warren or Portage. And it was not possible. It's not possible with this budget. We needed a bigger fire territory in order to be able to provide that. The math that I did on that was here, and Steve is here to answer questions that keep me straight, but You basically can ballpark that one EMS unit's gonna cost you about $1 million out of your budget. So if we did even just have one EMS unit as part of this proposal, we would have to lose 12 firefighter positions, or we would have to reduce their pay down to 55,000, which is about where we are now. So, for the near future, it'll continue to be provided by the county through the city of South Bend, unless we were able to achieve that future expansion. But in terms of a future expansion, including EMS, would be a number one priority, so that an ambulance is much closer to a resident's house than it is today, especially on this half of the county, because they're coming from pretty far to reach a resident over here. Last one, what is the plan for Station 41? A little bit up in the air, but something will have to be done here. As I said, it's not able to staff 5 firefighters. Is this the right location for it? That would depend on the territory and what all it would be servicing. But just a note for everybody, any costs and capital improvements that would occur to this fire station are incurred by Portage Township alone, not the fire territory, because it is a Portage Township asset and it remains a Portage Township asset. So that would all be based on future conversations, but that question has been asked.
So I think I understand each township will be responsible for the building, et cetera.
If
I
it was
feel like-
if it was like a capital improvement,
Yeah.
like adding bathrooms or
Right,
bunks,
remodeling, whatever.
but fixing things would be the territory, it would be responsible for building maintenance and
Okay,
repairs,
okay.
roof, hole in the wall,
Mhm,
these type of things, toilet exploding,
mhm.
which happened last week here. Okay, board questions?
I wanted to mention, I think maybe the confusion might be said when you said EMS providing to the residents, whereas
You're right.
all of the fire trucks are going to be providing EMS care, correct?
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
Ambulance
I should
transport
qualify
ambulance,
that.
okay.
Yep. Ambulance service is what I'm referring to there. Yes. And I'll make that adjustment. And I'll take any other suggestions for future public hearings as well.
Think we're ready for public hearing now.
All right. That gentleman back there has been waiting.
Can we have your name and address?
We're gonna have everybody do their name and address and then so we can take it down for the minutes if you don't mind.
His name's Gerard Laurie. 51679. Fillmore Road, New Carlisle. 6552. And could they put that on a referendum for a vote?
Speak into your voice.
The fire territory?
Yeah.
No, that's not something that goes on a referendum. You do have a right, and this will be explained when we have the hearing on the equipment replacement fund, that with respect to that particular fund, that's the 0.033 per hundred. You do have a right to remonstrate if 25 or more taxpayers want to file a form with the county auditor. There is a remonstrance process for that. But with respect to the territory as a whole, there is no referendum process for that.
Sure.
What if there's a train wreck? And the fire departments are gonna be there? And we might lose firemen at the time, or an airplane crashes. What's that?
I guess I'm not clear.
You'll be clear.
No, I mean, if you're asking,
I mean, the fire departments will be there. Right?
if we're on a call, if I understand, so if we're on a major accident and we need additional resources, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, they'll use local reset.
That'd be the mutual aid.
Yeah, that's where we'd use mutual aid to assist.
And say there's an industrial fire at the park,
Okay,
New Carlisle,
okay.
that's another large,
We would help them to
Yeah,
if we
yeah.
could. Yes.
Yeah, these units would respond in New Carlisle in those scenarios. Yeah. Sir, somebody up here had his, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, sir. Name and address if you don't mind.
Walt Bukowski, 56066 Richard Avenue. It's called South Bend, but I like to say that.
Thank you, sir.
He's my neighbor. He doesn't know it yet. Okay, I got a whole bunch of questions.
Okay.
How many properties right now are protected by Warren Township? Does anybody know?
I can pull that if you want to ask your next
How
question.
many properties are protected by Portage Township? And why is the rate so low for Portage Township?
Well, the rate's so low, I guess. What do you mean?
Well,
It's an
I'm
equal
going by
rate.
what the half-assed newspaper we have put out there, because there's no way, I never knew about the first meeting. I don't know how you guys publicized
The Tribune.
it.
Don't leave, don't leave.
No, no, listen.
Go ahead.
Hey, Walt,
Go ahead. He's got your numbers.
Every day for the obituaries, and they don't even post them half the time.
He's got your numbers real quick for you.
Okay.
so you want a number of parcels
Parcels.
Parcels.
for Warren
John Carlson.
is 4,529.
That's businesses, apartments, houses.
Parcels.
Parcels.
Tracts of land, yeah.
For Portage Township, it is 4,552.
Okay, that's parcels. But I guess the question should have been houses, apartments, buildings. How many you got?
I don't have the breakdown of that.
The question is, at that point, since you don't know, is this gonna be big enough?
Go ahead.
I mean, it's gonna be big enough. And the other question I got is, I don't wanna get to you guys, but this is so fine to be the head of the place, but why would you put the chief here? If you've got two brand new fire stations going up, don't you have a place to put a bunk in for him?
No, no.
Orange?
So, to answer your first question, the provider, the city of South Bend covers the city of South Bend, Portage Township. Okay. The fire chief, the provider unit is Portage Township, the entity, not necessarily the building.
Understand that?
We didn't say he'd be stationed here.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's not gonna stay up 24 hours a day, so you couldn't,
But you are correct, Walt. There's a spot where
You got
the
a
battalion chief.
brand new and you're building another one.
Correct.
I throw a cot on my floor for it, for God's sakes. If you gotta spend $1
Take
million
it down.
putting a bunk in for here for him. Sorry, guys.
Meaning that because the battalion chief on your slide.
Oh, no, we have room for the battalion chiefs here. Currently, there are 3 firefighters and a battalion chief here at 41. Yeah,
And then the other, I got another.
we don't have 6.
Okay, obviously the equipment stays, you already told us that. And, we did this years ago. We broke it up. You led it. So twice the big change now.
Change people. They actually have partnerships that are working together, well, before it wasn't.
So you guys have been at this for how long?
I think we've been talking for a few years.
We've been talking about it all last year.
So.
We
so all
asked,
these two fire departments wanted to get together?
well, we wanted Southwest. We wanted Warren and Union and Lakeville to join with Southwest.
Okay, well, what about German,
We,
Clay?
yeah, we'd like to have,
My personal opinion is the county ought to be under one fire district.
And that's why we're calling it St. Joe County Fire Territory. Our hope is to grow into
St.
that.
Joe County Fire Territory.
Right, but our hope is to grow into that.
It should be one district.
Yeah.
Okay. Hang on, keep going. Who covers green? We start with Warren and you guys cover green,
Currently, Southwest covers green.
but you have mutual aid.
Correct.
So all of Southwest went out. Then you'd send somebody down there to cover.
Correct.
So technically speaking, somebody is gonna cover green. But if they're, that's the question I got.
Right.
There's no fire station out there. I know that.
Yeah.
And the other question is, Warren, you got 2 old buildings now. What are you gonna do with them?
One's gonna be a community center and one's for sale.
The big one's gonna be a community center,
One on Quincy Road.
wedding barn.
Like a Lions Club. Fighting Lions.
Lions 4-H would be able to meet there right now. Warren Township 4-H has nowhere to meet other than the old building that the Lions Club had owned. And they charge them, and as Warren Township 4-H is a not-for-profit, if they.
Oh, I know all about 4-H. So I was a leader for that. for
So if they
20
meet at
years.
the community center, there's no charge for them.
My youngest granddaughter is not in 4-H, so I'm actually out of that now. I've been with all these organizations. So that's basically the questions, but the big question I had was, how are you gonna publish the next meeting? You got us in here. How are you gonna notify people? And don't tell me the Tribune.
The Tribune.
Get on the webpage.
It's on the website. It's on Facebook. What would you suggest?
I don't get it on Facebook. I'm asking.
What would you suggest?
I don't know. The Tribune's worthless. You know that as well as I do. I got a 10-minute in the morning.
I think they got a great new reporter at the Tribune. Want to make sure
This
she's
reporter that said we put all this money into the retirement fund, which I think you guys all ought to have. Nobody. The other problem is according to this, I'm gonna be capped out, because by the time the county gets done with me, I'll probably have to sell my house because we raised my taxes so damn high. You know, it's ridiculous. I mean, that's just the way it is. You know, you wait, you don't know what the proposal is for 24. You're not gonna know. I'm still waiting on my proposal due in 8 weeks to pay them. So we're all in that boat. We're all in the boat.
Yeah.
Usually I go down, vote, pay my taxes, make one trip downtown. That's all I need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Hands? Sir?
My name's Greg DeBroyak. I live at 59290 James Court, North Liberty. Just on these wages, just out of curiosity, is this a hourly wage
Yearly.
with? Yeah, I understand. Is that with or without benefits?
Without.
So they're paid, South Bend, for example, makes 75 plus benefits going into their pension. So chances are their total salary is about 100,000 a year. Right?
Could be.
Could be. Okay.
Yes, sir.
They're gonna be taking away elementary school. They're gonna be taking away the high school, Clay High School, and you get more fire protection. It don't make sense.
Okay.
Well,
Jason, maybe since people said, they're not how it can be publicized, perhaps in Warren Township, the stores, the gas stations in Warren Township, maybe we can just put up a sign at the door on what these other meetings are gonna be.
Cool. Good.
Well, I think,
You're probably better off putting it on the television, because if I hadn't have seen it on the TV, I wouldn't have known.
We can't do, I mean,
But-
some of the media reporters, they did report on it, but we can't, we don't have the money to take out ads.
Well, Channel 57 does a good job of
Yeah, get hold of
this,
this.
of getting word out.
but also I
Thank you.
think the point of having all of the meetings in a row is that these are basically the same each time. So that's part of how I think the statute wants it to be shared. Like the news will keep covering it and that's how we get on TV about it. But
Another
that's,
question.
Well, hang on, guys. The guys back there, sir, you in the black hat, I know you were trying to.
James Simzak, 637-271 Road, South Bend. If this takes effect and it becomes a territory, then Center Township would be eliminated, right?
Center Township is going to be responsible for providing their own fire protection for Center Township, regardless.
So that could take effect this year,
That will take effect January 1st.
January 1st
Yep.
next year.
That's correct. As with this territory, if it passes, take effect
Okay.
January 1st.
How much equipment would you lose to Center?
So it's a good question. We have a dissolution agreement that we're working through with them. It's very amicable. There are things that are titled in Portage Township's name. Portage Township will keep them. There are things that are titled in Center Township's name. Center Township will keep them. Assets that were acquired while they were a territory together will be split in half. Well, not in half, but Center Township will cut a check to Portage Township for this new fire territory on 1/3 of the value of those assets, because we have 1/3 of the assessed value in that territory and they have 2/3. So they'll keep 2/3 of the money because they were contributing 2/3 of the money, if that makes sense.
The other question is, on pay day, your wages are higher than Indianapolis Fire Department. How can you justify that?
I don't know what in Indianapolis, the city, or
Yeah, Indianapolis Fire Department.
I'm not familiar with IFD.
Well,
Yeah.
you should be because your wages are higher than IFP. And I'm not saying nobody deserves the wages, but you're saying, hey, we're bigger and pay more than IFP.
We tried to compare our wages to like-sized departments. So that's why our proposal has us at 9th out of 55 like-sized departments. So we didn't compare ourselves to Indianapolis.
and I think we were trying to be locally competitive, which is why I added those local. You don't have it. You said it's not in your packet. But that's what we were looking at was the local.
Because IFP's got 1,300 personnel, 44 stations, 44 engines, 22 ladders. It's all out there.
Thank you.
And starting firemen start 60,000.
That's for 3 years, they make.
Their top wage that we compared to is actually 89,
79.
79.
That's probably what that.
So you may be looking at their starting wage. Often those departments will have a starting wage and they'll ramp up to what's called firefighter first class in the 3 to 5 year range. And that firefighter first class then is what we're comparing ourselves to because that's their top pay that firefighter would get. So in our case, it's $75,000.
Based on firefighter first class, your wages.
Correct.
These guys up here had their hand up before you, sir.
Looking at your expected capital budget is gonna generate a little over $200,000 a year. A truck's over $1 million. That's 5 years of savings to buy one truck. What is the projection of the future needs for 20 years? Does that capital budget or capital levy match what you're going to need through 20 years?
You're 100% right that it's designed to be accumulated over time. But we are agreeing, well, I'm going to ask the board to agree to allow Center Township to keep particularly their 2 main trucks that were bought somewhat recently, and they will pay this fire territory or Portage Township the difference, the value of those, which we will use to buy 2 new trucks. So we would be looking at 2 brand new pumper and tankers for this territory.
That
So then that would accumulate over time to be able to replace them when they needed to be replaced. I do feel comfortable in that if that's what you're asking.
Well, I'm just asking if you're projected out, does that levy work? Or is it going to need to be increased?
It cannot be increased.
So the equipment replacement, it's capped out at 0.033. That's the highest that
Oh,
it
it's
can be.
state statute?
It's state statute. That's as high as it can be.
But there are other things that can be done to generate for that. So like in the interlocal agreement, if there's a Q fund, for example, at Warren, some of that money can come in there. If not all the budget is spent, some of that can be set aside back into the equipment replacement fund. What happens with territories like this, even though the proposal is where it's at, let's say it gets passed and adopted, it isn't like you automatically open a door and you're fully staffed and ready to go like that. So there is going to be, I think, some money coming in that should be moved over to the equipment replacement fund. And there's, I think you can move what, 5% is. So you can get that fund going. The other thing is, a lot of times when you're financing big equipment purchases, you might use a leasing technique or method, which you're not required to pay all up front. You lease the vehicle for X amount of years and at the end you buy it for $1.
Yeah, but that's a catch-22 too, because you have future needs that you're not going to be able to meet.
It can be. It does require some planning for sure.
No, you're right.
And my other question is, day one or the first of the year, how many of the existing staff between Warren and Portage that you basically anticipate having join the new territory, and how many you're going to need to secure
Yeah.
And is that gonna be circumvented with part-time help?
No, it's a good question. So, weeks ago, to the union of both Warren and Center Township, this new fire territory has enough to staff every member that's currently on staff with Warren and Southwest. And we made a commitment to the union in writing that these positions would be opened up to them first before outside hires, would start. So, I can't tell you how many people plan to come right now, because that's depends, right? Probably on the day. And they're gonna want to know, we haven't talked shift schedules, we haven't talked benefits, any of these things. So, if this were to pass, how I, and Steve, keep me correct, how I envision it moving forward is you hire your leadership, get a fire chief, you start, and then you open it up. I mean, this is like May, June, that you open it up for hiring so that by the time January 1st comes, we're fully staffed.
And your last part of your question, Roger, part-time help, yes. If we don't have all 47 people, we would solicit part-time help, and we have a lot of part-time people now, so.
Well, the fire territory between the two townships made sense for me 15 years ago. It makes sense today. Thank you.
I'm gonna make this really simple.
Sure, he had it up for you, sir, and then I'll grab you next.
Okay.
And then I saw you in the Notre Dame hat again, sir.
Really, the only question I got is, and I'm having a hard time with this one. Told me you've been planning this for well over a year.
Not planning, discussing. Sure.
Discussing. Why did you try to cram it all into March? Because you got to get by the 1st of April.
Yeah, we didn't know. We had our first meeting in December where I actually waited to the last minute. Portage Township has to officially had to put Southwest on notice. If we wanted to form a new territory, we had to give notice by the end of the year that we wanted to leave and do something else. So we did wait to the last minute because we wanted, again, Center and Union to come along with us.
But you notified them in December, but you've been talking about this for a while.
Correct.
But also, correct me if I'm wrong, Pete, you can't have your first meeting until after the first of the year. So even though we've been talking throughout the year, we can't have the first public meeting until after the first of the year. And we couldn't do our financial analysis till we knew if Center was gonna be in or out. So as Jason said, he waited the last possible minute to give Center
When
an
did Center
opportunity.
decide to pull out?
Well, Center, they didn't decide to pull out. Center, when we were talking about it with them, and it was casual, it's conversations, we'd like to do this. They didn't want to make any decisions until they saw the financial numbers. So we had to wait until December. We had to notify them that we were going to do this one way or another, and we wanted them to come along. That's why we had the initial meeting with them in January that said, these are what the numbers will look like. Are you interested in joining? We asked them to come back to us as fast as we could, which was, I think, 10 days. And then they did they declined to join. And then we started the process. We had to get this done statutorily. We have to do it by March
Jason,
or April 1st.
Jason,
Yeah.
Sean had brought this to us when he was a trustee and all about looking at doing something else, than what we are. So it's not like Portage just out of the blue thought about this. We thought about this when Sean was trustee.
Sure. No, thank you for that, Cheryl. Yes, sir, in the blue hat.
Yeah, he got my name and,
Sure.
okay. How is the territorial board is going to be selected?
Good question.
Would the commissioners?
No,
select those?
no, the commissioners wouldn't have any oversight.
There's an interlocal agreement between the parties that this goes through, gets approved at the adoption meeting. And right now, the setup is that you have the trustee or their appointee from each township. So that's 2 people. And then a board rep from each township board. So that's 4. And then there's a 5th member, and it alternates between Warren and Portage from year to year. So that you have a 5-person executive committee under the interlocal agreement. That committee is an advisory committee. They review and make recommendations. Ultimately, the responsibility under the statute for carrying things through is going to be with the provider unit. But there is a fire executive committee as I've indicated.
Is that a state statute or local statute?
So the Indiana code is Indiana Code Section 36. I think it's 8-19 is where you have the authority to create this type of executive committee. how it's specifically formulated is up to the entities to make an agreement. State law requires that there be representation from each participating unit, which this one does.
Another question. You got railroads that run between the fire departments. So you got Sample Street as an overpass. And say Warren Township was trying to get across and there's a long train going there. How do you
We'd use Mayflower,
plan for that?
we'd use Mayflower Road.
How do you plan for that?
Mayflower Road. Easy.
See, there are a lot of times the train that on
Stop.
Quint stop. I mean, it sits there for quite a while, so that cuts off two fire stations, one north and one on Grant Road.
Actually, great.
Yeah.
Sir, you had your hand up and then I think ma'am, you did then as well next. Oh, go ahead. Sure. Name and address if you don't mind.
My name is Karen Swisher at 26526 Clyde Court, right off of Quince Road at 46619. I'm looking at the tax levy and it's showing that Warren Township's portion of the operating levy at 76%. Portage Township is 23%. So if I'm understanding, Portage Township going to take control of all that money. And how did that happen when Warren Township has the bigger percentage of the money?
Well, what do you mean by control?
Well, you're gonna divvy up the levy, Portage Township will. Your department is going to be overseeing the firemen and disciplining them and hiring them and terminating them. Did Portage Township get to be in charge of when Warren has a bigger percentage of this?
That's a good question. Well, the territory would do a lot of the things, the territory board would do many of the things that you were mentioning there, but it really came down to there is no office staff, there is no staffing. The infrastructure does not exist with Warren Township.
Well, they got a year to get, I mean, or last year, they could have started last year if you were in discussion with this. So that doesn't make sense. Warren Township could have staffed, they could have gotten the staff together.
They wouldn't have money. I mean, frankly, we don't have money until July of 2025. So Portage Township is going to have to loan the territory money. We're going to have to start hiring staff in June, July of this year, and we will not be paid until July of next year.
Why would Warren have been able to do that?
It would be a big lift. I mean, I already have processes in place. We already have an infrastructure in place. We have payroll systems and we have financial systems. We have a bigger operation. It really just came down to the administrative and management function. But Steve, if there's anything you want to add to that,
I think you're right.
That's really what it came down to. So I won't be able to determine who gets what money. I mean, the policies of the territory determine who gets paid and who gets what.
Just out of curiosity, the firemen that we have now in Warren Township, are they strictly full-time employees or are they made up of part-time employees? When I mean part-time employees, City of South Bend, Mishawaka, Elkhart, for example, on those guys' days off, are they the ones that are manning the departments now? Or are the people that you said we already had enough in Warren Township, are they full-time employees of Warren Township?
So we have full-time employees, majority are full-time, but we also daily have part-time people that work for us.
To make up, and so that they're constant. What about Fort?
Southwest?
Yeah, Southwest.
Oh, I'm sorry. These are full-time firefighters. There are some part-time and on-calls that are used to supplement.
Oh, okay, but then, you don't utilize the South Bend firefighters on their days off to man.
I mean, what a fireman does on his own time.
I know.
I don't think there are many that work for South Bend.
They're professionals.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
They also, are what the EMT portion. So those guys are an added asset working part-time, if you will, for the territory.
You're right, and all of our part-time people come from other departments that they work full-time. Could be Penn Township, could be Clay, South Bend, Mishawaka. Some of the part-time, same things with Southwest. We'll work at those other places.
So they're all professional people that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't realize that's what you were asking. Yes, sir, in the back, black hat.
Does that make a difference? Like Plymouth has 15 full-time, 35 part-time. 35 come from other departments, Wilson, Elkhart, whatever. 24 hours on the day off. Would that be any savings or change in levy or anything like that if this territory ran on something like that?
I think if you have too many part-time people, you don't have the consistent staff that you have if you have full-time. With the full-time people, we know they're gonna be there every day. You will have some part-time workers that will take the summer off for baseball. I don't blame them. I love baseball. They take the summer off because they want to coach baseball. They're not available for you to work. So that's why having the staff, predominantly staff with full-time people, they're not gonna take the summer off to go coach baseball. They're gonna work like most of us do. So the goal is to have full-time staff.
Yes, ma'am.
Ann has 26,912 concurrent reports. So I just had a couple questions. So if we're going up to 47 employees or firefighters full-time or whatnot, how many at the stations we have currently, how many do we have currently servicing full-time?
At Warren 18 and 19, or
Well, more in 18, 19, and then also Portage, like actually the 40, how many are there currently that are going to go up to 47? How many do we have currently?
this fire station is manned by 3-man or 3-person battalions and a battalion chief. Sorry. She was 12.
She was in the total number of employees.
Oh, our total, well, that would include the other fire station here at Southwest. We have, I mean, essentially 12 people man this fire station.
On a daily basis, we have 5 people.
So how many total? Because we're gonna go up to 47 total. Where are we going from? Like, where are we at now?
It's probably pretty close to 47.
We're
Yeah.
probably at about 21, 22 right now between the two stations. You looked at Warren having, let's just say if they had 3 shifts, you're at 15 guys then. If you have here at 4 guys on 3 shifts, that's 12. So you're probably in the 25 range roughly. So we're looking to hire or bring on 25 more people.
So you're doubling.
Correct.
Okay, so are you adding more service with the doubling? Or are you basically still covering the same amount of jobs? Like, are we just covering the same amount of area but doubling our staff? Is that how it works?
You can look at it close to that. Yeah. I mean, the issue you have is the manpower to staff all the rigs. So with our staff we have today, both rigs are not staffed to go out the door. Our plan is to have both the engine and tanker staff to respond to a call.
So if you can add on to fire territories, you have Clay fire territory.
Yep.
And you have Olive territory. Why wouldn't it make more sense for Warren to go with Olive and Portage to go with Clay because they're already established?
Well, Portage doesn't share a boundary with Clay on the unincorporated side, I don't believe. I think it's German that is first. So those are possibilities. Just same thing as we could join the city of South Bend for that matter. I mean, there's a lot, but it fits now for us to join and then begin to expand out and add other people into our territory.
Are we gonna run up? Like Olive just made a fire territory in the last couple of years.
Correct.
I mean, are we gonna be competing for people to join our territory?
We're competing with everybody.
But one thing we didn't mention at this meeting yet is we approached New Carlisle and Olive also to see if they'd be interested in this year. They are interested, but they asked us to join to form this first and then come back at them again. So if this were to be approved, New Carlisle and Olive would be high on our target list to start meeting with this summer to see if they'd be interested in joining this and adding them as part of this territory.
And currently, they're with a township in LaPorte County, the Dixon.
Hudson Township. But I will say this, when it comes to like forming these territories, you can't just look at a map and see who's next to who, and all of a sudden it makes sense to do that. Because ultimately, the functioning of that fire protection, involves something very critical, and that is, how does that personnel meld together? How do they work together? And then someone mentioned earlier about, like, couldn't you just have the whole county covered? The law does allow for fire districts, which would be a countywide system. But at that point, that's going to be run by your board of county commissioners, not by your local township people. So I know from a lot of people out there, it's important to have the local control. You get to come to a meeting like this and talk directly to your township representatives. You don't really get that with the board of commissioners. So, so there's having local control is important. And then, and like I said, is discussing from bottom up with the fire personnel is, where do they work together well? Where do they not work together? When you look at existing, whether it's Clay or Olive, they've already got a system set up. They already got a fire chief set up. Who's going to run it? If you combine with them, does that mean that someone else gives up a spot or not? New set of rules, new way of doing business. So that personnel management thing is it's critical to the whole territory. So it isn't as simple as looking at the map and saying, this is next to this area is next to this area, let's join. You have to have all those other discussions and doesn't mean it can't happen, but you can't just snap your finger and make it happen.
Kathy Day, 59313 James Court. I want to talk about ambulance service because right now we're dependent on, if there is a big medical emergency, somebody has to come out to Warren or to this territory from South Bend Fire Department. So what's the average time we're looking at where we get service?
The average response time now for the South Bend ambulance to arrive on scene, I don't have that statistic to tell you.
Not even a guesstimate?
I would guess you're probably, what, 5-6 minutes after we get on scene, so you're probably 10 minutes for them to respond. I'm gonna guess right now.
Wait a minute.
The two ambulances assigned to the county are on Bendix.
He knows.
He knows where we live.
The
My
two,
neighbor fell off the roof and he called 911. The fireman from across the highway, just across the highway.
Right.
Took him 15 minutes to drive around.
To get in too.
That was just a truck. And then when they got there, they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
The ambulance was coming from York Road.
yeah,
It was close to 45 minutes before.
that's what I was gonna tell you. There's two ambulances assigned to the county from the city, and one is on York and one is on Bendix. So,
Yeah, that's why, as Jason said earlier, our goal is to begin to incorporate the transport portion of the EMS down the road. We'd hope to do it this time around, but with not everyone coming in, doesn't mean it can't happen. But we focus on the what we have right now to bring in the ambulance. Not only do you need the personnel, you need the equipment, truck and that. So
where would you put that ambulance, even if you got one next week?
I put in Warren Station 19. It's the most centrally located, the one behind the Speedway.
By the Speedway.
Right.
It's the one that's most centrally located to the territory.
Okay.
Okay, so my question was EMT training. I'm not sure that everybody, I want to make sure I'm on the same page. EMT is basic medical assistance, blood pressure, CPR, defibrillator. But if you have a full code, you need that ambulance with the paramedics on it. And we don't have paramedics in either of these territories. A vehicle with the paramedics.
Correct. You have it in between the EMT and the paramedic, you have an advanced EMT.
Okay,
So most of our staff at Warren is certified to the advanced level.
okay.
So our goal would be to still do that. You can't do everything that the paramedic can do, but you can do a little bit more than
A
what the
little bit
EMT
more
do.
than an EMT.
So, and moving up that ladder, continuing to move up the ladder to become paramedics is certainly our goal as well.
Okay.
It takes time in the class to get everybody through it.
Well, I know.
other questions from folks? I'm gonna be here. I'll stick around if you guys, if you don't want to ask a question in front of everybody, happy to chat one-on-one? Go ahead, sir.
Just one quick thing.
I'll grab you now.
We're having two more meetings.
Yep,
on the
that's right.
14th and
28th.
28th. Now, isn't the 28th Easter Sunday?
No.
That's a Thursday.
No, it's
No, Thursday.
Thursday, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not meeting anywhere on Sunday. I'm just gonna-
Aren't you
I'm
having
gonna throw that
sausage
out.
sandwiches?
There's a question in the back. Go ahead, sir.
Shane Weber, 5795, up then. Sorry, I'm horrible with names.
Me, Nikki.
Can you explain the circuit breaker, how it jumps, it almost doubles from 23 to estimated 25? And what that is that is the 1, 2, and 3% tax caps, right?
Correct, yes.
So will those, if it's jumping up almost doubling, so our caps?
No, you're capped out at 1% of your assessed value. So you were just creating more. So basically, the other units are losing property tax. So as a whole, say Warren Township can levy, I don't know, $1 million, right? But then they have $100,000 of circuit breaker. So they really only get 900,000 because everybody else splits this pie of circuit breaker. Because they can levy above your rate is to almost $3, I think, at this point. Right? So they can levy all those. We throw it all out there, but then only this much gets billed.
Yeah, but that isn't this saying that is increasing?
It is increasing, yes. So other people are,
The amount they lose.
they'll just gonna lose more.
Like,
Your cap's not going up. You're still paying your 1%, 2%, 3% is your cap.
And which just says other units, she's talking about like schools.
The school, the county.
Library.
Schools, they-
The schools and all those are not losing if this goes through.
that's on the slide here.
Yeah. Response times. I've heard it said several times, response time can be bad. How are you going to increase the response time?
I don't think I said they were bad.
Somebody was quoted as, 15-minute response times or worse.
That was for an ambulance responding. I think is what we quoted at the time.
Yeah, the long-term goal would be to add the ambulance service to make those faster. Yeah.
But you're gonna increase, a defined increase in.
Yeah, having more hands on scene, that's a big part of that. That's what we want to move towards with having the 5-man shifts, here at Station 41. That's a big part of
Having
that.
both rigs that are staffed, so both your engine and your tanker are staffed. So right now, only your engine is staffed. And there's a second call, it's going to change the response time. So by having both rigs staffed, you have more bodies available to respond to a call, or if there's multiple calls that come in at the same time.
And correct me if I'm, just a quick clarification, one of the issues right now is we only generally have staffing for one of the two to go out, right? So engine goes out without the extra water from the tanker, and then we have to get help from another station to get a tanker out there, which kind of delays things and can be issues.
Correct.
Okay. Thought that might clarify.
Sir?
677. Confused here. So your Warren Station in Leidig now does have a 5-man staff?
The one currently today, there's 2 guys assigned that. We're building a new station that will be done in November, and that
So
will,
that's based on your new station.
correct.
I did take a whole new station. To what you have.
Not to our existing station was built for a volunteer department. So even the bedrooms that we had in there are not by today's standard, really what you should be having as a firehouse.
No, I get it. It's all necessary evil taxes for the service. I get all that, but sometimes it just seems like the spending's a little bit more. And I think more, same amount or more could be done with the same or less. That's neither here nor there. Talk about response time, this may get a little nitpicky in my opinion, but talking about response time, there's 2 more township fire trucks sitting out here, parking lot. They're obviously not in North Township right now. The reason why those trucks are there,
Interested in what's going on.
Shouldn't it be more interested in what's going on in Warren Township rather than the Denver meeting?
I won't dispute it. I mean, you make valid
I
point.
mean, you want to go to this territory, if this thing's run like anything like the current territory, I think there's a lot of room to trim some budget. I've seen instances of a Southwest truck sitting having pancake breakfast in North Liberty for more than an hour. How can you justify that? No, I think you're onto possibly a good idea, like the management of this thing's got to be run more like personal business and where you're looking out for all your costs, not just some cash cow taxpayer. That's a good for all spending. So I think it's just, I think so you need to take a serious look at these budgets.
Yes, sir.
Mark Perkins, 54163 Quince Road. So much a question as an understanding or a statement as everything else that I've seen come across in my lifetime with the baby boomers and so many more people need so many more services, so many more citizens are cut shoulder people. There has to be an answer, and you're working at it. I'd hate to be in your shoes and try to figure this out, just personally. But what I've come here and wanted to learn, I did, and I'll be able to spread that out. I've contacted my neighbors personally, door to door today, and said, hey, there's a meeting. Probably ought to go to it. Different ones. So I guess I just want to say that I want to take part in this community effort, for one. No, I'll pay my fair share of taxes as long as I feel it's my fair share. I think that's what's main on people's minds. That's why I see a lot of these questions against Portage and Warren and all this stuff. People are interested in paying the fair share. So, I don't know where else to go other than to come to the next meeting and see what's said, and in the meantime, do my homework to try to get a better understanding. Again, I wouldn't want that job, so just keep up the good work as long as you're leaving my nickels alone.
I think that's a priority. Thank you. I'm gonna do a last call. Otherwise, Steve will probably stick around. I'll stick around. The board, I'm sure will be here a little bit. So, Pete, Nikki.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn. Portage Township.
Township, I want to agree.
I make a motion to adjourn Warren Township.
Second.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you guys all so much.